Greetings, fellow humans. Today, on Exploring Limitations, we're actually going to be sitting down and talking to Chad Stalker. Chad Stalker, if you don't know him, is best known as the bassist for the band The High Strung. And if you don't know the band The High Strung and you know the show Shameless, the title song is one of theirs. Chad is a friend of a friend, Colin Stanley, who you've also seen on this channel. And last week I was home in Detroit in Michigan, and I had a chance to go to Chad's place, his rehearsal place, and we did a little bit of jamming, and no recording really, but he had a few fun tape machines to talk about, and he's just a fascinating person, a wonderfully nice person, an incredibly talented person, a great musician. And without further ado, let's just get into the conversation with Chad Stalker. It was great playing with you last week with our buddy Colin Stanley.
Yeah, that was so much fun. Thrilling, actually, because one of my bands that I've been in for 21 years, I'll be in the High Strung, and we haven't practiced in a year and a half. And my other band, the Mythics, that I'm in with my partner, Jessica, we play every week, generally. It's different. And and as a musician, I require both. I require, I really do like hanging out with Brandon and Jessica, and we work on our songs, and, we talk through the material and what we want to do with it all and everything. But I play guitar for most of the set on that, and I'm just switched over to bass, so we've moved a few songs to bass, but with the High Strung, we're a band for 20 years, so when we get together, we're we can just jam forever, and I'm playing the bass, and I'm, long story long, when you guys came over, you guys are like musicians, you know how to jam, you know how to play, we could shit the shit, it, felt real good.
Yeah. It's been a year and a half. Obviously, we're coming out of this whole pandemic, and it was just nice to play with musicians. We've been deprived. I assume you've been pretty deprived from that as well.
Yeah, and when it first went down, I was looking at old emails actually, because I was trying to figure out my taxes, so I had to see all the stuff that I had bought during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So I was looking through my emails, and I came across the ones where I was sending myself notes as to what to bring back from my house. That I have I'm right now in my house, and then there's another house that I had my studio in. And I was looking at notes as to what gear I was going to bring back to my actual house from the studio during the start of the pandemic, because I thought this will be a perfect time to get a lot of work done in the studio, Mm-hmm. And I'll bring some gear over here. And then, the first few months of the pandemic, I didn't touch instruments, and I didn't touch the gear, and I was not inspired at all, and I was tired, and I was not ever nervous or scared for my life or anything like that, but I was uninspired for sure. Me and Jessie were fostering we were fostering her nephews at the time too, so my job became school teacher. And that just took a lot out of me, man.
Yeah.
After that, I didn't want to touch anything or do anything. I wanted to watch a show and fall asleep at 10 at night.
Yeah. I think a lot of people can relate. Yeah. Everyone reacts differently to literally everything. We're all individual humans, right. And we're not identical. We come in various models. But I think a lot of, you're a very artistic, empathetic person. So I know a lot of people like that certainly had, again, like you were just saying, you had a lot of responsibilities, and I'm just curious, was there any feeling of relief or not relief, but just the, everyone's lives got so disrupted, and some for the better, to be able to take a pause. Did you get any kind of respite
Yeah, a little bit actually.
from the grind?
Yeah, we went out walking every single night, and that was nice because there was like a family of deer hanging out in this one woodsy area, but down the street from my house, and so we would always be checking up on them. And I think we saved a couple of baby raccoons too. The mother had abandoned them, so we were outside a lot, which was really nice. Really cool. Yeah, that was good. And I didn't mind helping the kids with school. I just wasn't that great at it. Thankfully, I had pot. It really helped that situation a lot.
Yeah. Anyone who's watching, the state of Michigan is officially fully legal, and Chad is
right.
over in Detroit.
Yeah, this isn't contraband here.
Not that anyone even. That's not even about that. It's
I know.
we're living through the end of prohibition, and it's just taking. It's not gonna be a quick, but it's happening slowly but surely, but definitely.
Yeah, I will say this. At some point, I did manage to get like a bunch of tape machines fixed from my tech. His name is Jay Best, and he, I had. Let's see, I think I had 3 or 4 4-track cassette machines, just totally worked over and tuned up and working now. And I had him work on those. And then the big one was that we unearthed the band had bought a TX 80-8 half-inch reel-to-reel machine. They had bought that in 1999. So when I moved to New York and joined the band, they had already had it, and they had already done some recordings on it. But by the time it went into, storage in like 2005 or 6 or so, at least 2 or 3 of the tracks weren't working. So it was in bad shape. And so I had that repaired, which brought me to the, and so all of that was happening during the pandemic. So I was getting things like that done, and I built a few pedals from kit. I built 3 pedal boards, so I was doing things like that. I just wasn't playing as much, and I was playing my acoustic guitar every day. So I have an EP's worth of music that needs to be recorded on an acoustic eventually.
Is it in your head at the moment?
No, it's done, and it really doesn't require much other than me just playing the songs correctly, because I don't think it's going to be any more than just one acoustic guitar. That's all I can muster. But I think it'll be cool enough to hear, once. Like most of my music, I think everybody listens to it once. No, yeah, it's cool.
No way. People, and we'll direct people. You're at Honest to Goodness on Bandcamp, right?
Yeah, correct.
That's your main.
Yeah.
And when you say earlier, you said the band. I do want to talk about this, a little bit.
Sure.
Talking about the High Strung and your move to New York City. But I do want to rewind a little bit, because when I was over there, you said you got your first 4-track in 1991 or something?
I think it was 92 or 93. I think it was 92 or 93. It started kind of we were a punk band, me and my very best friend Adam. We started taking guitar lessons at 10 together, and I'd known him. His parents were friends with my parents before we were born. So I've been friends with this guy a long time, and we were in bands together in middle school. And then in high school, we were in a band called Mind Block with our other friend, John Gornbein. And I think at some point, we were a punk band, but John was a few years older than us and already getting into weed. And I
Yeah.
think like everybody started to get into like pot a little bit and psychedelics, and stuff started to, like, punk rock just wasn't like, it really wasn't doing it for me, like it didn't sound as good, right? Like the recordings are harsh and it wasn't mellow and it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to be hearing at the time, and but indie rock was a good segue there, like it was still independent, still had a punk ethos, but it was a little bit more weirder, and there was maybe some flanger on something, something swirly that sounded good, and so because I now remember this moment too. We were really into grunge, because as you would be at 14 in 1991, we were into grunge, and I remember, buying anything that had the Sub Pop label on it, and we bought a Sebadoh record, and that Sebadoh record to us didn't sound very good. We're like, what the fuck is this? This is fucking, I don't even know what I'm listening to. This is noise. I don't know what it is. And then I think it sat on the shelf for like a year or two. And then we were, getting high in somebody's bedroom and pulled that Sebadoh album out. And song 11 was called Smoke a Bowl. So we're like, all right, let's start it there. Let's start the album here. And then it, blew our minds like out of our head. My brain went like bursted out of my head, and realized that like a majority of that record was done on a 4-track. And then I was told to listen to Pavement, and I was told to listen to Ween, and like Ween, is really psychedelic, and they did their first couple of things on, like home Porta Studio type of things. I don't know if it was 4-track or not, but so then we decided to buy one. Long story long, we decided to buy one, and that's what we did. And then our drummer went off to college, so then it was just me and Adam hanging out in the bedroom, getting high and making weird noises on that too. And so that's kind of like how we started with it. I didn't understand nearly any of the functionality on it, and it's only, 30 years later, I'm still learning certain things on this machine. Yeah.
Of course.
I do love it.
Was there a name of this project, or is there any surviving tapes or anything from that or those early days?
I have, yeah, man. I listened to him about it a while ago, maybe like 8 or 9 years ago. I pulled out a one I wrote. It was something I had made myself. It was just in my own bedroom, and it was called Herb Stew. And it had this really I wish I would have. Maybe I can send you a photo of it that you can superimpose into the thing. And Herb Stew is just really, really weird.
Yeah.
It was like really weird and really strange.
You listen back and you're like, what was I? How did I even do that? Like that kind of thing.
Like, what did I do after I recorded this? Is what I really wanted to do. Did I go downstairs and like eat dinner with my family? Like I was probably so high when I made that.
Someone commented on one of my videos recently, and I wish I had the quote. That's exactly their, like, when it comes to recording on 4-track, they were saying, just getting high and making weird shit is one of the best parts of these machines.
Yeah.
And were you using 4-tracks through all this time? So we're talking in the early 90s, and here we are in 2021. Or was there a period of time when that was the old technology, and you were moving on to other ways, and all those Porta Studios went into a closet?
Mine have been shelved here and there for years, here and there. I've not always just been like into it. I just had the one for a long time, and the one that I had, the headphone jack never worked. So in order for me to monitor that, I would have sent the monitor outputs, the RCA jacks, into a Y cable that would have gone into a like a 1 quarter-inch TRS cable that I would plug into my bass amp at the time, whose headphones did work. And that's how I would have to do it all up, just so that I could use headphones. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And that was like that for like 30 years. That was when I finally got a 4-track that the headphone jack worked. I was like, holy shit, now I don't have to cart around this PV TKO 115, which is like the heaviest amp, just so I can listen to headphones while I'm recording this thing, And that's what's so funny about like 4-track. I just feel like 4-tracks are like puppies. They're like each one of them has its own personality, and like has its own feel and has its own thing that you can do with it, and like it generates a certain type of creativity from it. Yeah, like I have got the 464. We looked at it last week. The 464, one of the gray ones, and that thing is so awesome. It's got a lot of functionality. It's got 2 insert points on track 1 and 2. It's got, I think they all have like direct outs for each track, but you can fuck
tape
with
outs.
those, those tape outs.
Yeah.
I send those to all sorts of outboard gear and then plug them back in to the mixer at some other point. And then the 424 that I have doesn't have as many of those functions, but still like a pretty nice machine. I like that one too. So I recorded. We took it into college, and we recorded a bunch of we recorded a lot of songs there. Like one time, me and Adam told our roommates that we were going to Vermont for spring break.
Spring Black.
And spring black, and the 2 roommates that we lived with were dating, and they were going out of town. And we told everyone we were going out of town, and instead we just parked his car like 5-6 blocks away. We bought like 2 cases of beer, a bunch of alcohol, an 8-ball of cocaine, a bunch of pills and weed. And we put shit over all of the windows of the house, and we just recorded on this 4-track for like 5 days, like not knowing whether it was day or night. We didn't leave, literally did not leave the house. We did get caught though, because 2 friends, they're like, what do you think they're doing with the cat? Maybe we should go over there and check out what's up with the cat. And they knocked on the door. And we're like, go away.
Cats. We ate the cat. No, just kidding.
The cat's fine. So that was still 4-track days. And then after college, I moved to New York and joined the band. And they had already been recording on that 8-track a lot. And, and I think at that point it was we closed up shop on the 4-track for a minute. But then I know
what year was this?
2000, August of 2000. But then I remember I was dating a girl who lived in Ypsilanti. She was still going to Eastern, and I brought the 4-track up there and recorded a few things on that at that time. And that would have been like 2005, 2006. So I had another little spurt then and recorded some things. And then I recorded, but then I think right around that time too, I bought Pro Tools. So then I locked myself in a practice studio when the band wasn't on tour, and I literally locked myself in a studio in like a little room for like 2 weeks, and I just bought this space for 2 weeks and set up Pro Tools and just figured out how to use it. And I had like a foam mattress that I just laid out to sleep whenever it was convenient to sleep. And that's how I did that. And that's how I learned Pro Tools. And then on and off, I remember when I moved in here, the Mythics, we were trying to record something, and I didn't understand why my Pro Tools wasn't working. So we were like, fuck it, we need to get something recorded. So I recorded on the 4-track again, and it brought out a lot of fun, And then, it's never fully gone away, but the 4-track may take like, a year or 2 break, here and there. I recorded with it last summer.
There's so many things from that I want to. I'm gonna follow up. So, were you playing bass from the beginning? Is the bass your first instrument?
I started playing guitar at 10. I wanted to be a drummer. You know, like I think every kid probably does. But I wanted to be a drummer.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I wasn't really getting the feel that was going to happen. And I had another friend who was like, my parents will let me get a drum kit.
That's always a huge factor, right?
It's
For
a huge
drummers.
Factor at
It's
like, what, 10, 11, 12? Who knows? You know.
So people out there listening, every drummer you know had parents that were okay with this
tolerant
monstrosity of an instrument that is loud.
Totally. So, yeah, you know, you're right.
Shout out to those parents. Or their parents were so absentee that it was no problem. You know?
Right. I think that was part of it, but then, like, my band in high school practiced at my house 3 to 4 times a week. So I don't know if it was necessarily that, you know, it became like part of their life anyway. Like, we were playing punk rock music at the house 4 times a week. So I don't know, that might have bit them in the ass. I kind of came to bass just the same way that I feel like a lot of bass players do, you know. I wish there was something way cooler than the story, but I was like, I play guitar and Adam played guitar. I mean, Adam was kind of wrote more of the material, you know. He was a little bit more like the songwriter. I wrote some, you know. I had a helping hand in a lot of it, you know, and I wrote a few of my own. Especially back then, I was writing a lot of punk songs or whatever. But when we were in middle school, it was like heavy metal shit, and our drummer was was younger than us, but his older brother had a friend who played like hot shit, like slaying heavy metal guitar. So then he came in the band, and we needed him. Like, he was the only thing that made us worth seeing at all. He was so good. His name is Joe Sachs. I think he's like a hired hand guy in Nashville now. I think, you know, he does stuff. He's still a musician. He was an excellent musician. You
got pushed to
Adam
bass.
playing guitar. Yeah, and Joe had a bass. Joey had a bass because he was also like really good at bass and saxophone. So he had a bass, and I didn't even know what a bass was. I you know, honestly, I had no real idea what the difference was. But he was you know, Adam was a songwriter, so he needed to play like a guitar, I think. And Joey was a lead player, so yeah, then I kind of just like came upon it. I was like, all right, I'll play that one. Well, I just want to hang out with y'all.
Yeah. Well, they're lucky, or something happened, because one of the things I love about your playing is it's very melodic. You know, you've got you know, anytime I listen to any of your projects or the stuff in the High Strung, you know, you're I don't know if it's because you were a guitar player first, because I was a bass player first, and I know we can tend to get very like root oriented and groove oriented, and so you know, your playing always sounds very melodic to me. I don't know if that was already developed or you developed that later.
Not as much in that metal band, but we weren't very good at that time. I was only playing for like 2-3 years at that time. But like about in high school, I think we were a 3-piece punk band. And, you know, so there was I got real into the Lookout records, you know, and for some reason all those bands on there had very melodic bass players, like Crimp Shrine, Operation Ivy, and Green Day. You know, they were those first 2 records of theirs were on Lookout. And so like that trifecta right there, bass playing, incredible bass playing there, and lots of notes, very melodic, you know. So I wasn't into the groove until much later on, you know, in life. Honestly, I feel like I didn't really know what that meant or what its purpose was, whether or not we had any groove at all. I mean, in a punk band, we didn't. We were just, you know, we were just trying to like play heavy, but yeah, loud and fast, but still melodic. Like we always had harmonies, and we always had like lead melody lines that wasn't like screaming and barking. It was always singing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what appealed. That's why that pop punk stuff really appealed to us, because a lot of it was like had some melody to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, then in college I started to understand a little bit more of the groove. Like I would listen to some dance music, was kind of happening in the late 90s in Detroit. And I wasn't like super into it, but I would go and I would like pay attention to what I was hearing and why things were happening like they were. And, there's 4,000 people dancing to the same thing. I'm like, this is powerful. And why is it powerful? So then I kind of understood the groove at that point a little more. And then in the High Strung, we started at 5 people. And I would switch off from guitar and bass. And I think maybe I even played keyboard on a few things. And but as musicians started leaving, the role of each of us started getting bigger. Mm-hmm. And by the time we became a 3-piece, I was just the bass player. And Josh wasn't like, a ripping guitar soloist. He's a really creative guitar player. And when he does take a solo, it's interesting, and it's weird and it's fun. And it's like a cartoon character, But for the majority of a song, if he's singing it also, and we want to do some flourishes or whatnot, Josh kind of said, like, you should kind of like do the lead parts, And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do that.
When did you? Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard this story. When did you get with the High Strung, or how long have you known those guys? Were you a founding member or joining it later? I don't. Yeah, just
okay.
what's the story there? If you don't mind sharing it.
Yeah. So Josh, Mark, and Derek all went to my high school, and they were good friends with the drummer of Mind Block, who were all, so they were all 2 years older than me. So the drummer of Mind Block was John, and he was great friends with those guys, and who became my bandmates later. When they all went to Michigan State and left me and Adam in high school alone with our 4-track, mm-hmm. They went off and started a band together at MSU. And they met up with this other guy, Jason, and Mark, who became all members of that band called the Masons. And so they became like at that time it was like 1994, 95, 96, and like jam bands were kind of a thing. And they were sort of in that scene, but they were like dark and weird. They didn't have a bass player. They had Josh played piano, bass, and a farfisa, so you could see where they were, what their influence was. Dark and weird. The Doors,
Right.
And that's what made them so cool. Like they were just different than anything else that you could hear. And I liked all that other shit that sounded the same, but I really had a lot of respect for that band too. But they stole my band away, all right, so now you guys went off and started this new band. And I've known Josh since I was in 3rd grade, because his younger brother was my best friend when I first moved to West Bloomfield. Okay, so that's how I met Josh. I had known him pretty much all my life, And Josh was friends with the other guys in the band. One by one, in the mid-90s, they all started to move out to New York, still continuing to write songs together. Josh and Mark became like a songwriting duo, and me and Adam would do shows with them during college, like acoustic shows, where we would trade off, like, hey, you come and play at the coffee shop that we do every week, and then you guys can come up to us and play the ones that we've been playing. So we've always been friendly and always been hanging out and everything. And then my senior year of college, they kept calling me and saying, you should, move out here and be our bass. Like, we need one more guy. I was like, well, yeah, I graduate in July of 2000, so maybe after that I'll come. I didn't give them any real answer. I didn't really take it for much, I was trying to maybe go to grad school and learn how to, I don't know, get a master's degree in poetry. English literature, yeah. Yeah, I was into poetry.
You definitely made the right choice, in my opinion. No offense to those people out
None.
there with
Yeah.
master's degrees in poetry.
Right? I'm
It's,
sure you're teaching somewhere.
but yes, I hope you
I
are.
really do hope you are. Yeah. You're a sad person. No, I
Okay.
just made the choice. So then what happened was, and because I didn't know my geography like I do now, my friend Alyssa was like, "Hey, why don't you come to Atlantic City? We're going to see Widespread Panic for a few shows in Atlantic City. It'll be a blast. There'll be like 200,000 hippies that take over the boardwalk.
Hmm.
And we're like, oh, well, okay, yeah, I'll go to that. And I was like, is Atlantic City close to New York City? Because maybe you could just drop me off there after the shows. And they're like, yeah, we'll figure it out. So I like packed a bag and I put it in this car and I went to Widespread Panic for 2 shows. And then her friend, Lewis, who I'd just met, like 2 days earlier on this road trip to see this band, was like, hey, I'll take you to Brooklyn. So he kind of like navigated me through the city from Atlantic City, and I knocked on their door and I was like, hey, I'm here to be in the band. I let them know ahead of time. I was like, hey, I think I'm coming out there. And that's what I did. And like 3-4 days later, I was out there, and
And they had
immediately went to the bar.
yeah, yeah. And Williamsburg was a different time, different place, different.
Man, sure was.
Did you live to? Well, first of all, what was that place like? Was that the same one you were describing to me last week? Kind of a big.
Yeah. It was like it was a loft area. It was on that one street called Dunham Place, which only exists for one block between South 6th and Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
So it only exists right there, and it's sort of lodged between Kent and Wythe.
Mm-hmm.
And and there was a bar called the Ship's Mast, like over there on the corner of Kent and South 6th, and there was a bar called the Right Bank at the corner of Kent and Broadway. And those were like our meeting grounds. Like that's where we went. I worked at the Ship's Mast. We, hung out at the Right Bank. I think there was there was like a This American Life bit about the Right Bank, about a guy, about a Hasidic Jewish guy who would go there and like sing karaoke or something like that. I don't know, he would go there secretly and hang out with non-Jewish people and have fun. I don't know. I remember that. 'Cause I was like, that's the Right Bank. Man, that's where we used to go.
You're like, I definitely hung out with that guy.
I think I did. I really think I did. I feel like I remember seeing him there. Yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, we lived there. It was just a big loft, and we had, our landlord, his name was Albert, and he had the whole first floor was his, and then he partitioned it off into 2 apartments. And he sold like eBay shit. Back then, he was like selling eBay, which was really pretty far out to be like that, like 2000, 2001.
Yeah,
like doing
totally.
that shit. He was kind of on top of his game. I mean, he managed to, live. And then he was also a jazz pianist, and he would gig like 6 nights a week. And then on our side of that floor, we had the basement, which was where our only toilet was, all the way in the corner. It was like filled with centipedes. And
those New York centipede things, right? I don't even know what they are.
I don't know what they're monsters, and you really can't get rid of them. Like they've been here far longer than you have.
Yeah.
I would just learn to respect it, I guess. Oh, well, we had a little room down there we would play in, which was really interesting because for New York and Brooklyn and all that, like to be able to rehearse where you lived is not very common, and so we were able to do that, which was pretty important for us because we recorded everything on our 8-track down there. We rehearsed every night. Yeah, and that was awesome. It was cold during the winter. It was hot during the summer. I mean, there's just nothing to it. The only plumbing was in the kitchen area, so that's also where the shower was. So you know, you had
Yes.
to figure that out. There was one window in the entire place, and it was big.
Oh.
And then at some point before we left and went on tour, there were 9 of us living there.
Huh.
You know, on and off throughout the day, like living there.
With the
It
one
was
window.
wonderful. Yeah, with one window. It was wonderful. It was great. I mean, it was cool. I worked a midnight to 8 in the morning shift of roughly like 5-6 nights a week at an all-night diner. I was the cook.
Woo.
So
Holy
we would have band
shnikes.
practice from like 7 to 11:30, and then I would go to work for 8-9 hours.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it was
Ooh.
fucked up.
Yeah, dude. That's that third shift is jacked.
It is, but I've
And
always wanted to because I read the Way of the Peaceful Warrior,
mhm.
and I was inspired by that to like get like a midnight shift. It was not quite as enlightening as it was in that book.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure all the best people in New York City were your clientele between midnight and 8 a.m.
I never much like. Yeah, I didn't encounter the like actual customers, but at that time they were working on the Williamsburg Bridge, so I would get the after bar scene, you know, like basically from 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and then right around there the bridge workers would start coming in,
Oh yeah.
and so I would be feeding the bridge workers at that point, and then I
Mhm.
would get off at 9 o'clock, or about 8 o'clock in the morning.
That's an interesting overlap in time that I've experienced. I one of my main day jobs was doing events in the city, and sometimes
Yeah.
if the event, I'd have to be in Midtown at 6 a.m. to set up. So riding the trains around 5, and
5.
so it's construction workers,
Yeah.
and then people from the night before,
Right.
and maybe nurses and stuff. It's
Yeah.
always a very quiet, weird scene on the
Yeah.
train with hardworking people.
Right. It's always something hard
Yeah.
at that time. Like you
Yes.
either partied hard or you're working hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Lewis Cole has a song called "Weird Part of the Night." I don't know if you're hip to him.
Uh-uh. It's
Yeah, and
about that?
it's literally about that. Yeah.
That's
I-
awesome.
yeah. The weird part of the night.
Okay.
So you did mention that 8-track, the 88, and
80, yeah. We always call it
80-8.
the 80-8. Yeah,
Yeah.
that like in my mind it'll always be called 80-8.
Yeah. And were you saying that there's material from those days that hasn't been heard? That you recently went back and discovered?
Yeah. So that goes back to this whole part of it, the COVID day. You know how like everybody at the beginning of COVID lockdown, they were like looking through their pictures and they were going through like all of their old stuff and journals, and they're posting and like, look what I found. I found this from this time. And, so I guess we were sort of doing the same thing, but like with our music. And I went through and I archived every piece of audio that I had. I had to find luckily I still have a PC laptop where the CD player still worked. And then for some reason I had partitioned one of my Lacy hard drives into like a share file. And I was like pissed that I had done that because I guess I messed up and did that when I first got it. And thankfully I did do that because then I could plug it into it enabled me to plug it into the PC and pull things off of the PC and put it on there, and then allow me to plug it back into my Mac and organize this archive. So I archived every single thing I had, every bootleg that somebody recorded on, CD or mini disc or whatever, every any digitized photographs or anything like that I had. Video, I'm still having a hard time with. There's a few things that I can't pull off yet. And all of our music, all the different recording sessions we had, all the outtakes, all the things that got cut from records, all that stuff. And, we started listening to this one recording called Hannah. We called it Hannah or the Whale, and Hannah was Derek's niece's name. And we had this really, like, cute photo of her where she's, like, doing that, like, a cute face. And so we just decided to call this project Hannah, that we had recorded on the TX 80-8, and we recorded it just like a month before we went into Jim Diamond's Ghetto Recorders and recorded our official first record. We recorded 10 songs before we recorded that. And then when we recorded These Are Good Times, which was our official first record, it just kind of went away. Like, we just stopped dealing with it. I think we played a few of the songs, from that recording during our sets, and I think a couple of them made it onto a EP that the record company wanted to put out, but nothing got very far with it. And then it just kind of fell away, band members that were on those recordings were gone, and we were just moving forward. Like, when we became a three-piece, we just moved forward. We didn't look back. We didn't, like, we left a lot of dust and ash and heartache and tears in our past. You know what I mean? Like, we just moved
100%.
forward. Yeah. We were young and jerks and we wanted to fucking keep going.
Yeah.
And part of that was this recording. This Hannah is what we call it. Hannah or the Whale is what it's called. And so we all started listening to this, because I kept, like, I would archive something. I'd be like, dudes, listen to this. Remember this thing? Remember this? And then Hannah obviously came up, and everybody was like, this is brilliant. Like, we should do something with this record. And then I got and it just so happened to sort of coincide with me getting the 80-8 fixed. And so then I got the original tapes, and I did the digital transfer into Pro Tools with it. And then we gave it to a local mixing and mastering engineer here named Zach Ships. He played guitar in Electric Six in one of the iterations of Electric Six. He was in that. He was in a really cool band with his wife called Arc Pelt, which was like 2 bass players and a drummer. So he does a lot of interesting stuff, and he's recorded quite a bit of bands around here. So we had him mix it, and he was such a good sport. Because I tried to remix it, and I just was like, this is going to require somebody who really knows what they're doing. Like somebody who can really do this. This is above what I can do. And so we got him to do it, and it took about 2 months to record these 10, to mix and master these 10 songs. And the whole thing is only like 32 minutes long, but 10 songs, 32 minutes long, but it took a while because we really wanted to capture the magic that we felt from the original, like, mixes that we had made back in the day. But some of those mixes are, like, so harsh. I couldn't listen to the whole album without my ears being so fatigued that, like, would have a headache afterwards. And they're great,
Right.
But if you want to listen to it as a whole album, I was like, I think we need to get this. We need to remix this. And it took a while for him to channel the energy and the magic that we were hearing from the original mixes, but without some of that harshness.
Yeah,
so that was the big
challenge.
Thing. Yeah,
It's
and
funny
there may be some unearthed things.
Oh yeah. So is there a release date on that, or is that still kind of floating around? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've been talking to everybody today. We have like a group, where we're like back and forth with each other on it, and we talk every day. So Jason Berkowitz, he was the first guy to leave the band, after our first tour in 2002. It was 2002, and he did the first really long tour with us, and he was like, all right, guys, this isn't for me, but I love you, you know. So he left the band, but he recorded Hannah and he recorded These Are Good Times with us. So we had, and you know, and then Mark left the band a few years later, but he's been in our band now since like 2017, I think. Mm-hmm. So he's back, and he's been back for 5 years. And so then we got Burko, or we call him Burko, but Jason, we got Jason back into the swing of this too. And so we're all 6 of us. Well, so what's cool too is we originally wanted Steven to do the mastering of that recording, so that he had a piece of it with us, because us 5 recorded it, 18 years ago, but Stephen Palmer has been in our band longer than Mark has been in our band, who was in the original band, Mm-hmm. So we really wanted him to feel something about this recording, Mm-hmm. So we decided to have him master it, but I think it may have been above his pay grade too, and that's why we went with Zach to do all of that. But so Steven ended up creating some really, really cool, beautiful artwork for the front and back cover.
I mean, that's really nice of you to even to it's band life. Humans, people don't get to hear about this kind of stuff, but when you are a band, you're like, well, I totally get it. You wanted to get him on the music somehow, but it looks like a good compromise was made.
Yeah. I think he knew too that he was like, I don't think I can do the mastering. Not to mention, like he mastered it, and we loved his master of the original recordings. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But if we were going to remix them, that may have been a little above like what anybody was willing to put in. So we just hired somebody to do it. Yeah. We just needed to.
Did I miss did you say that there's a release date for that?
So yes, even cooler is that when we put out our second, third, and fourth record, we did it with a record label at the time they were out of Philadelphia, then they moved to New Orleans, and now they're in Sacramento, or somewhere in California, called Park the Van. And we put those records out, and then we just, broke ties with them. I think it kind of happened naturally, like the contract was over and whatever. So we went our separate ways. And then we put a post out about it. I think Josh put a post out about it on Facebook, and Chris from Park the Van was like, I'll put it out. And I was like, this is amazing. So we've unearthed this recording that we recorded 18 years ago. We're about to put it out with the same people who put some of our finest shit out back in the day 15 years ago, And so we're partnered back up with Park the Van. There'll be a digital and vinyl release of it. The vinyl, I think, they said the vinyl production is backed up 3-4 months. So there won't be vinyl available for quite a while. But I think the date it'll be the fall. We originally wanted to put it out in the summer, and try to have the summer jam, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think we may try to do a video as quickly as possible and put out a single for the summertime and just kind of let that hype up the record. And then I think we're going to do a fall release, which fall releases generally, from what I'm told, are that's a good time to put them out. College kids are back. They're experiencing new music. They haven't spent their whole, money. They haven't spent all the money yet, so maybe they'll go out and buy records and see shows.
I wouldn't. I hadn't even thought of it in those terms. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I just love fall because it's my favorite season.
Me too. Me too. You're a wonderful musician, Chris. I really liked playing with you, and I loved. It was jamming with you. It was really cool. It was really fun.
I appreciate it. I got Colin got a quick snippet, and I have a quick snippet on my phone. I might play it right here, right now in the video.
Okay.
people out there may or may not know, it depends on who's watching and listening, it's relationship based. You know, music is like gelling with someone. You know, I've played with some of the greatest musicians I know, and I didn't really gel with them. And then sometimes you play with someone, and it's like your soulmate, your musical soulmate, and it's the simplest. You know, not simple is not the right word, but like the music is just so relationship driven. And the older I get, that's the more. That's what it's all about, you know, people and connections. And so it was very easy to play with you, I guess. Long story.
And our
long.
hangout afterwards was cool too. You know, and that makes sense. It's like, you know, are you cool enough to hang out with? Then yeah, let's jam. Shit, that's great.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. So we didn't, you know, we were so into it that I think we had a vague idea of recording something, but we were too caught up in a good way, you know.
I agree. What I do want to do though is definitely send you a cassette with like one or two things on it, and then let you do whatever you want to do on it, and then you can send it back to me, and we can just discuss through the whole process. You know, like, hey, maybe we should bounce. You know, all right, well, you know, let's bounce the, like tracks 3 and 1 and 3 onto 4, and then we'll open up those 2 tracks, and you know. I got an idea for a keyboard part, and maybe you know what do you want to do?
Yeah,
like,
I mean
that's like some old school shit right there. I've never done anything like that.
I've got about.
You got some Maxell XL2S?
I got about 6 of them with your name on it, pretty much.
Nice.
Or maybe I'm sure I won't take up that much.
No, probably not. I think we probably get like half of one of those.
Yeah, half of one is probably pretty good. This feels good. I feel like I'm going to talk to you again.
All right, yeah, let's talk again. I agree.
Yeah, there's still a million.
We did get through like 25 years, though.
Yeah, there's a million questions still that I could just talk to you all day, but we'll potentially keep. There'll be a Chad part 2 sometime down the road, and maybe in person when I'm back in Michigan or something like that.
That'd be cool too.
Yeah,
or maybe if I ever make it back out to New York, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know why you would want to. Let's get. No offense to my New York friends. I've been here 7 years, but you know.
Yeah, I lasted about a year and a half.
Oh yeah.
At 23 and 24, it was you know. There's a lot in there. Okay. I always used to say, and then now this is like a totally dated comment, but I used to say, I'd live in New York if it was a little less Basketball Diaries and a little more Woody Allen. But now you can't say that. So now I don't even know what you'd say.
Oh, man. I don't even want to try to come up with an
It's like, what do you say? Yeah.
Well, that's fun. That's a funny place to end it. Is there anything that you'd like to promote while you're here? I mean, I know I mentioned your Bandcamp page. That's bandcamp.com/honest to goodness.
Yeah, like honest to goodness, all one word. Yeah. That's pretty much it. You know, there's some some cool 4-track things on there. There's some.
This is great for it. And film scoring stuff. I highly recommend.
That I made on them.
I could have done a whole hour on the music that's on that page, so people should go check it out. I know some of the one of your first. I think it's called Firsts. You know, there's old 4-track stuff.
That was all from really like Ypsilanti,
It's really
Michigan.
good, Chad.
Thanks. Yeah, I was like into like. I was listening to electronic music, but didn't know how to make any of it. So it's real, like basic, you know, ambient. I think I had just gotten into Eno, and you know, Radiohead had just come out with OK Computer around that time. Like it was a cool time.
Very, yeah.
I think I bought my first digital delay pedal, which changed everything. You know, really.
Like the Boss one.
Yeah, but this one was a PS3, so it was the phase shifter delay. So I had the best of both worlds. So I could send drums through the phase shifter and then shift, not phase, pitch shifter delay.
Yeah, okay.
So you could like send it in there and like change you could make like you could send like a drum machine through it, and the drum machine would be pulsing its rhythm through, and then you could do like extra rhythms by just changing the pitch knob. Mm-hmm. So like I learned to like play the knobs at that point, you know. Yeah. It's fun.
That is fun. Yeah. That's what I do with the 505, you know. Very simple drum machine, but some of the there's some good pedals for it. Some of them are not so good. Excuse me. It's been fun to just literally plug it into every pedal and see what it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah.
Be like, yeah, this sounds great. Or nope, not this one.
Man.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. I couldn't figure out how to use that thing. And now it's broken.
Oh yeah, you had a 505.
I had a 505. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I only have it because it was one of the things my dad had lying around. So
sweet.
I kind of just embraced it, you know.
Yeah.
You know, everything I call here is exploring limitations, and
for sure.
And
that's hilarious that you say that.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to start this 4-track club in Detroit, and the slogan was called the limitations are endless.
Nice. That's a much more poetic. See, you almost did. You got your master's degree in poetry. That's way more poetic.
That's right. Let's use it together.
Yeah, sure, 100%. Yeah. For the sake of time and I guess we're gonna say goodbye. You know?
Okay. All right. Cool. This has been great.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you, and we'll be in touch about, you know, this
sending.
Stuff.
Okay. Let's do that. Maybe I can make something tonight.
Yeah, like you make something, send it to me. I'll make something, send to you.
It doesn't have to be just one tape. That's right.
That's right.
All right, cool. All right, man.
Cool, Chad. Good.
Thanks, Chris. This has been wonderful. Thanks for being interested. You're great. Love you, man.
There you have it. I just finished the conversation. Just hung up with Chad, and that was really, really nice. We were texting right after. Like he could have kept talking for another hour. So could I. Probably longer. And you probably heard that we plan on doing some collaborations, and I'm sure we'll see Chad more on the channel here. But in the meantime, do go check out the High Strung. They have a new release of those old recordings from Williamsburg, which I'm sure will be super awesome, super raw. And then also go to Chad's Bandcamp page, bandcamp.com/honest to goodness. All one word, honest to goodness. There's decades. Sorry to age you, Chad, but you know, decades of great stuff on that Bandcamp page. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this and if you want to see more stuff like this in the future. If you have any questions for Chad or me, just leave them in the comments and we'll be monitoring that. And if you're interested in supporting me and what I do here, you can support me directly on patreon.com/madeontape, or you could still support me directly on bandcamp.com/madeontape. I still have cassettes for sale, and one of those is worth about 100,000 streams on Spotify. So really appreciate everyone who's purchased cassettes from there so far. And that's it. With that, as always, peace and be good to each other.
Nothing is gonna work. So Chrome doesn't want to work, you know.